Emilie Choi is president and COO of Coinbase, a leader at the frontier of crypto and finance. She's helped navigate volatility, regulation, and the mainstreaming of digital assets. Her vantage point shows how traditional markets and blockchain economies are converging faster than ever before.
I was talking to roll off. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, we can clap. We can do this. That sounds right. That sounds right. Thank you so much. Emilie, you're kind of an Internet 1.0 veteran, right? You were at Yahoo and then an Internet 2.0 veteran at LinkedIn, and you've referred to crypto as the money of the Internet. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so I was at Yahoo back when it was cool. Nobody young believes me, but I was there when there were some of the best minds, I think, in Silicon Valley who ended up leaving the company. It's actually a good tale of what not to do, because some of the brightest people in Silicon Valley, like Jeff Weiner, whom I followed to LinkedIn later, were there. And one of the things that I noted at that time was that we were in a read-only environment. So in the beginning of the boom of the internet, there was a lot of consuming static web pages. And then we moved in the social networking era to reading and writing, so interactions on the internet. And then the era of crypto is more about how you take ownership, tokenization, how you take ownership in what you're doing. So in the Facebook era, you might have just put a bunch of content up about your profile. LinkedIn too, where I was, you didn't derive tons of monetization value from that, whereas in crypto, you actually have tokenomics. You take ownership in that. And so I think that Internet of Money is a very powerful concept, and I think what's going on right now in the economy and with young people, I think it's going to be incredibly important for us to think about how that can capture the zeitgeist of what people are really feeling in the economy right now.
If crypto is going to disrupt or is disrupting part of the financial system, what current part of the financial system today do you think in 5, 10 years will either be gone or at least significantly diminished?
So when I think about the benefits of crypto, it's 24/7, it's instant settlement, it's global, there's no middleman. These are the benefits of it. And so I think when you think about different pieces of the legacy financial system, it's the costs, the time, the fact that it's extremely fragmented, that you wait 3 days for a wire, that you can't wire money to somebody in India very easily without a ton of costs and time. And so I think all of this stuff is going to be deeply optimized by crypto.
It's funny, when I think of Yahoo, it was the king of Internet 1.0. Coinbase is currently king of crypto right now. Brian Armstrong has talked a little bit about what's he called, about the everything platform, an everything exchange. Mm-hmm. What does Coinbase have to do to maintain that position, and what does an everything exchange mean?
Everything exchange means that we want to offer our customers everything they want to trade, consume in a crypto native way. And we worked really, really, really hard for clearer regulation and policies. We're in the middle of that. The Genius Bill got passed, which was huge, and now we're working on a market structure bill. But what I think this has opened is everybody wants to offer and consume these types of services to their users. The irony is we really, really, really worked hard for that policy to open up, and now we have a slew of competitors in the space. We don't look at it as a zero-sum game. We genuinely don't. We actually think that there's just going to be tons of TAM. I always think about that old Uber TAM analysis back in the day where they were just looking at one little segment, not thinking about the bigger opportunities. And so we actually think that having all these different competitors in the space opens it up, validates it more. You have to remember, for the longest time, we've been considered kind of a fringe industry, but there are 52 million Americans who actually hold crypto. So it's just, there's been a narrative violation.
Is there anything that doesn't move on chain? Do stocks move on chain? Do bonds move on chain? Does all this move on chain?
I think it all moves on chain. The timing and everything has to be very clear. Here's an example. A self-hosted wallet, which is fully on chain, you have to know your private keys. And what that means is that you have to be an incredibly advanced user who understands, who's willing to kind of be fully responsible for what they own in custody. if you lose it forever. And so I think there's stages to get to this stage.
Does that get changed or fixed at some point?
I think we can find
without
bridges.
it blowing the whole thing up?
Yeah, I think we can find bridges to it, but I don't think, I think like everything, it doesn't happen overnight, and it's not an extreme. We build to it.
What role will Coinbase play in getting off-chain assets on-chain? I mean, do you view that as part of your ultimate mission?
I do. I think when I think about our value prop for forever, it was about being the fiat to crypto bridge. And Brian Armstrong and Fred are some of the original founders. They counterintuitively leaned into regulation and compliance back in the day, because when you're touching people's money, you have to make sure that you're touching it in the right way and that you're KYCing it and that we're following all the AML rules. This was not something that many others wanted to do. And so I think we have natural core competencies and things that are really, really thorny and grungy to do.
Will Coinbase at some point offer its own prediction market?
I predict so.
You predict so. Fair enough. You also just launched a token sale platform. Are we returning to the ICO era? Are we back in that?
You know, there's a really funny thing about crypto. I don't know if this is true in internet. It might be, but you'll have these little like bursts of interesting activity, and then they'll die, and you're like, oh, it's over, it's gone, and then it'll come back in some other form. So, in other words, yes, like I think it's another form of the ICO era, but there was clearly demand. We weren't compliant at the time of the whole industry because there were no rules of the road.
Yeah.
And now it's like we have some rules of the road, and so we get to actually offer.
Well, you have rules of the road. You also have an SEC that, when there are no rules, is kind of looking the other way. I mean, does that enable this a little bit? When it comes to ICOs, the SEC hasn't really changed anything when it comes to ICOs, for example.
Well, I think there's
Except
more
enforcement.
Yeah. So for context, the last administration was god awful. It was regulation by enforcement. There were no rules of the road. There was a catchphrase that they used, like, you know, come in and register, but it was kind of a joke because nobody actually knew how to register. There was no vehicle to do that. Now I think Paul Atkins has actually kind of started to lean in and put some frameworks out there, but we definitely need regulation. Like, this is an industry who is ironically asking for clear rules of the road so that we can comply and actually make sure we're following these rules.
When I hear this, because I've heard this from crypto folks for a decade, right? We just want rules, just tell us the rules, and we'll follow the rules. But you don't just want rules. You want a certain set of rules. That's why you got, not just you, but others have lobbied for a particular set of rules, right?
Yeah. So this is a little esoteric, but here's an example of one of the rules of the road. We want it to be clear what the SEC owns and what the CFTC owns. In other parts of the world, there is no like weird kind of dichotomy between these two things, like what is a security versus what is a commodity. We have that in the US, and in the last administration, these two agencies were absolutely fighting for their own fiefdoms. It was awful, and that was part of the thing that we got stuck in the middle of. So that's an example of something that would be clarified in this new structure.
So Genius Act gets passed. You talked about wanting market structure. Is there a third leg to that stool? If market structure gets done, is there something that follows that?
I think there's all sorts of things that we can revisit in the future about like what, you know, there are things that we're probably not even thinking of today, but market structure is just a foundational thing. You know, I'm really proud of the crypto industry. After FTX imploded, we were persona non grata. Everybody hated crypto. Elizabeth Warren and these other types were attacking the industry. I thought our banking rails were going to be cut off. I mean, I had like a stomach ache every single day that I came into work. It was awful. I can't describe how horrible it was. And one of the things about crypto people is like, we are made of steel. So like, we got our act together. We came up with a super PAC in the industry to show our might. We built a grassroots organization called Stand With Crypto that has millions of members. In case you haven't noticed, crypto people are very vociferous.
A little bit. And
they would show up at town halls, and like we vote, and there's a structure where Stand With Crypto rates Congress people based on their crypto stance. So like we got really, really loud about everything. And so this tops-down, bottoms-up thing actually really, really worked. You're going to see the AI industry do something very similar because we finally made it known that like we weren't going to stand for any of this BS anymore.
Do you have any concern that if there's a new administration 3 years, say it's more on the Elizabeth Warren side of things than the Trump side, that some of these rules get rolled back? Or do you think that it gets baked, you have enough time, 3 years, that these things just get baked in?
There's never enough time. That's why we have to get market structure done now. We just have to. Like, we have to make sure that if there is ever a very, very strong anti-business type of government that the rules of the road are laid out foundationally. And it's the most important thing we can be doing right now.
You mentioned the FTX failure. When it collapsed, was your reaction and that of your colleagues surprise, or was it more, yeah, that seems right?
Yeah, that seems right. Because they were operating offshore. Like we were getting so much smack from everyone. Why? How do they only have 40, 50 people and they're doing all this stuff? And like, you guys have this huge compliance organization. What is wrong with you? I mean, we got it from everybody. And we kept doing all these bottoms-up things. We were like, are we crazy? Like, what? To process this many customers, you have to have this level of compliance and all this kind of stuff. We're like, it just doesn't add up. So we thought we were like living in an alternate universe. And then, but it turned out that a lot of the companies that were offshore were able to operate much more freely without rules. And so it wasn't a huge surprise when they crashed.
I'm curious, Coinbase donated to President Trump's inauguration. Lots of companies did. You also donated to the ballroom. How did the inauguration? I get every president does an inauguration. Companies can easily figure out how to donate to it. How does the ballroom information get to you guys, and how does that check get written?
So we made a check. You should talk to our policy team for more specifics. We made a check to the National Parks nonprofit, and that.
But do you know how the information even got to you? I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, no,
We've had national parks since Coinbase was created. I don't think you guys gave money to the Grand Canyon Foundation.
You know what? We give a lot to different foundations now, and so the specifics of it we weren't aware of. But I also, frankly, don't even have a problem with it because I think if you go to DC, there's a lot of buildings that need to be updated, and so if private industry has to do that, it is what it is.
There are, but there's a lot of like apartment buildings that are falling apart. I mean, this is a very, and by the way, I'm not saying it's not smart, but look, I mean, it's to keep good relations with the White House, right?
Sure.
Sure, okay. Let me ask you, talked about how, kind of since the Genius Act, you talked about, how you have more competition and how more competition's been coming up. Let me ask about one particular company. I'm just curious your thoughts about them coming in, which is Binance. It's obviously the world's largest exchange. Hasn't really been operating in the US, starting to a little bit. Do you view them, particularly since they're going to apparently be allowed to operate more in the US, someone else also donated to the president, do you view them as a serious competitor in the US to Coinbase?
Sure. I mean, I think they've done an amazing job throughout all the years. I think they've met customers where customers wanted to be. They've offered products that I've been really in awe of in many ways. I think that the US is a different battleground. I think customers here have a different sense of their levels of tolerance with respect to leverage and things like that. So I think we're big on global companies getting global with crypto because I think one of the things that's cool about crypto is it is a global phenomenon. Like historically, financial services are extremely nationalized, regionalized. This idea that a global company can come in and you can compete on products, like we're all for it. We're very pro free markets and we want to win on our products. We don't want anybody to be held back.
The token sale platform we talked about a little earlier, or product, it seemed built in part on a couple relatively small acquisitions you recently did. You've done larger ones this year like Deribit. In fact, Coinbase is one of the more acquisitive tech companies out there. And you did this stuff when you personally when you were at LinkedIn. How do you at Coinbase determine between buy versus build?
So we always look at buy versus build versus invest versus partner. And you'll see this all around the industry. Like you see Robinhood and Kalshi partnering to power some of the prediction markets. We believe very much in a strategy where if we have it laid out in the product strategy and we're going to want to accelerate it through an amazing team, product, business, we will do that. And by the way, I came in from LinkedIn, lateral move to Coinbase. I was same exact role, like head of M&A, because I met Brian. Every founder says they want to do M&A, and they actually don't want to do any M&A. Brian wants to do M&A. He loves being around entrepreneurs and founders who are deeply crypto native, who understand things, who are passionate about building towards the mission. And so I think we may be one of the most acquisitive companies on the planet. I don't even think it's just in crypto. I'm pretty sure we're up there.
Do you have a basic lesson for others who are in your role at other companies on once you've bought something, particularly if it's something significant in size, about ingesting it and how to do it well?
Yes. Make sure that you stamp out not invented here syndrome, which I think is symptomatic of most companies. So we have 3 acquired founders on the executive team. We allow spaces for these people to make us very uncomfortable. Like they ping us and they're like, I don't like the way we're doing decision making right now. This is a suggestion I have. Like you want to bring in that entrepreneurial culture, and they're a pain in the butt sometimes because they always see how you can do something better, and it's actually fantastic to leave room for them to be able to do that.
There's also a deal. I was in Vegas at Money 2020 a couple weeks ago, and everyone was talking about you guys going to be buying BVNK, which now you're apparently not buying. Care to explain why you're no longer buying it, or not no longer, but are not buying it?
We mutually agreed that it wasn't the right thing right now. We're huge fans of those guys, and we want to see them thrive.
When you were at LinkedIn, you were also acquired, or the company
Yeah.
was acquired by Microsoft. Was there a lesson you learned on the other side, being on the acquired side of this, on what to do or what not to do?
You know, it was honestly kind of why I decided to leave, just because I had been at LinkedIn when we had been private, 400 people, then public, then on that journey being part of Microsoft. And Microsoft is a phenomenal company. I think it's outperformed most companies at this point. But for me personally, I was like, what does it mean to head up M&A in a division of Microsoft?
Yeah.
Like how many different bureaucratic processes will I have to do to get through to get something done? And so I think it's more about like, how do you remove all those obstacles? How do you give people autonomy to run?
Coinbase made big news last week in corporate land by moving your incorporation out of Delaware, moving it to Texas. Why?
Clear rules, big ambitions. We frankly didn't want to be in a place where rules could be subverted by an activist judge when shareholders had voted for something else. And so this is the Tesla package that. And so for us, we're always going to.
Was it that what you said, the Tesla package, that lawsuit in that situation, was that really the thing that sparked you guys? Obviously, it had nothing to do with Coinbase.
We look at what is happening to other companies. We look at the ecosystem constantly. We're like, where are there pro-business, very substantial environments where there's predictability of the business? Because we want to offer that to our shareholders. We want to offer that to our customers. We want to offer that to ourselves and to the ecosystem. And so where there are clear rules, where there's a very pro-business environment, we're always going to be open to that. There's this concept Balaji Srinivasan once talked about, like voice versus exit. At some point, like you walk with your feet, you show your power with your feet, and we're super excited to be in Texas.
Are you surprised? I think there's been 28 de-incorporations from Delaware, and like I think last year 250,000 new incorporations. Granted, mostly small companies. Are you surprised that there haven't been more de-incorporations?
I think we're going to see more. I think we're not ever scared to be one of the first. So I think we're going to see more blue chip companies move.
When you joined Coinbase, the company was the crypto industry was in the midst of a crypto winter, and you made a comment at some conference. You said that, or someone told you that crypto winter is when companies build and mercenaries leave. Does that mean it would be good for the industry to have another crypto winter?
Yeah.
Bitcoin's having a bad. It would be.
The truth is it is. It's very exciting when the market runs up and everybody's exuberant, but. The truth of the matter is the absolute smartest people are gleeful when there's a winter because all the mercenaries get out and you just can build freely the right products for the right users, and they know that the long term will always benefit them. So it's actually weirdly more fun for the crypto natives. Like I've watched this personally throughout the cycles.
Do you think we're heading toward one?
I mean, if history is any indication, like my guess is at some point in the next year or two, there would be a winter, but like there's also a lot of people who think that they won't exist anymore once there's more stable regulation and just a very kind of secure environment. In fact, there's people in the crypto industry who are complaining about how boring we are now, how it's just too stable and how there won't be all this volatility anymore. So I could argue either side.
With the little time we have left, you've talked a lot about how you've kind of tried to incorporate or build a writing culture inside of Coinbase. We'll talk about this with Max from a firm also. He's done the same. I'm just curious, which means that people, when they have the questions, they write them out. When people have answers to them, you write it out, and these things get reviewed. Has AI changed that? And here's what I guess I'm asking. I have a friend who's talked about a colleague she has who always wrote very, very curt emails and was generally not considered very well internally, considered kind of a mean person. She said that about 5 months ago, it just changed overnight. The person seems the same, but it all changed. Do you think that people are, if not gaming the system, can you be a writing culture if people aren't really writing?
I do, because we are we're very, very concise in our writing. Like it takes me 5 minutes to write an important document.
But do you think people are asking ChatGPT to write their documents for them at Coinbase?
What I think more we're seeing is we're seeing the different tools summarize things. So like what we can do is say, we have this incredible system called Rapids for decision making. And one of the things we do is we say, please look back on these different decisions that we've made and see which people, this is like a Ray Dalio concept, which people have tended to err on the side of like really good decision making and why. And so, like these tools can go through, seek this information out and be like, I can look back and be like, oh my gosh, like this person was so right. I was totally wrong on it. So it's more about the analysis for me than, at this point, better writing.
All right, last question for you. It's a dollars question, not a crypto question. The Eagles are in Dallas this weekend.
Yes.
They're favored by 3.5. Do you take the bet?
Of course.
Just checking.
Of course, Eagles Super Bowl, yes.
Emilie, thank you so much.
So good. So good to hang out. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks.